over 70 to 80, 90% of the projects fail. And the reason why is just why you can compare it to driving a car. Theoretically, you can learn everything about driving cars, but once you step into a car, everything looks completely different. The CEOs of today, they absolutely don't have the skills, in my opinion, to really stay in pace, right? Because as you said, the world keeps on evolving faster and with a faster pace. It's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the most adaptable. And I think agility and adaptability are the number one skill you would need in this world, because everything changes so fast. So if they come to us and they ask us like, yeah, we need AI, then the first question they would ask us is a question they would get back is, okay, why do you need AI?
Welcome to the show. Today, we are talking with Maurice Weber, CEO and co-founder of Crebos International, a global tech powerhouse that has been quietly revolutionizing how Fortune 500 companies and governments think about digital transformation. Maurice is not your typical tech CEO. He is a high school dropout turned blockchain millionaire, best-selling author, and the driving force behind a company that serves everyone from Disney and Philips to the Dutch government. But what makes his story fascinating isn't just the success. It is how he is positioning AI and automation as the next frontier for business transformation while building a €4 billion fintech empire with Henry, his revolutionary neobanking platform. Whether you are a business leader or trying to figure out where AI fits in your strategy, or an entrepreneur wondering how to scale tech solutions globally, this conversation will give you insights about moving past the AI hype to create real business value. If you are someone who wants to hear from business leaders who have actually built global companies and navigated major technological shifts, hit the subscribe button now. We bring you conversations with founders and CEOs who share the real stories behind their success, the failures, the pivots, and the strategies that actually work. Hi, Maurice. Fantastic to have you on the show. Looking at your trajectory from starting in fitness to blockchain, then building Crebos into a global tech company serving Fortune 500 clients, that's not exactly a traditional path into enterprise software. How did you actually get into this field? Was there a specific moment when you realized technology consulting was your calling, or was it more of an accidental evolution?
Well, thank you so much for having me here on the show today. It was actually like a very funny story and actually very accidental, as how you said it, which is very common in my life. My life has been an adventure since the day I was born. So everything was like a roller coaster, and the same way how I rolled into enterprise technology and fintech and neobanking, that is just basically the story of my life. And that went from fitness and selling supplements and going to, oh, let me just build something like an application so I can serve more people with the things that I know about fitness, and seeing all the problems and issues in technology and the development and thereof. And that made me just roll into technology, starting with smaller projects, and then eventually all of a sudden I was doing government related projects and enterprise technology. Yeah, so that was in a nutshell how that all went.
All right. You have been through some significant ups and downs. The Apollo protocol experience, rebuilding from scratch in India, scaling globally with Crebos. What have those setbacks taught you about building technology companies that you wouldn't have learned from just reading business books? And how does that hard-earned experience shape the way you approach your client projects now?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very relevant question, and also actually good information for the rest of the world. I mean, everyone is talking about technology, and nowadays everyone talks about AI. But it's true what you're saying. The theory from books is completely different than how it goes in practice, especially with technology. Over 70 to 80, 90% of the projects fail. And the reason why is just why you can compare it to driving a car. Theoretically, you can learn everything about driving cars, but once you step into a car, everything looks completely different. And with software and building technology, that's the same. So when I rolled into it, I was actually like a customer getting services from another company to get my technology built, which was a app for Apollo Protocol. And that taught me the lessons and the frustrations, because I had the frustrations with the technology company and the teams that were involved, the developers, designers, and it was always hard because they were, yeah, different kinds of people, right? They look at the world differently. Most of them are very, very creative, and people that are very creative are most of the time not like business minded people, right? So to get like a combination and a holistic view was a very, very difficult thing that I realized and I was very frustrated about. And that was when I was as a client, the frustrations that I had. But once I started my own software company, and that's also exactly the difference that we make, we have both sides. We understand both sides of the sphere. And that is, from a client perspective, the frustrations you have when you have to work with developers or designers and build technology because they don't understand your business. And from the other side, the developers and the designers and the rest of the team that don't understand the business acumen, but also why the business people don't understand anything about technology, right? Because it's, for them, it's a mundane thing. They understand it. They do it most of the times more than 10 years or 15 years. And they don't understand that most business executives, even the executives, they don't understand the basics even of technology. So those lessons from the practical world and making those failures and spending a lot on losing a lot of money in investing in technology, and from there building my own software company made us also quite successful in offering and building software for our current clients. Yeah.
Now that we understand your background, let's dig into what you are actually seeing in the boardrooms across the world. What I want to ask is, you know what frustrates me about the technology conversation right now? Every conference I go to, every CEO I talk to has the same story. We need a digital transformation strategy. But nobody can actually tell me what problem they are actually trying to solve. You have been in rooms with Disney executives and government officials. What is the first thing you would tell them when they come to you with vague ambitions?
Well, yeah, that's a funny thing, and I hear that all the time. And I think also the biggest part in success is understanding what happens in those boardrooms, right? Understanding those executives that don't have any understanding about technology at all, and also specifically guiding them to make them able to understand, right? And ask them questions based on their questions. So, for example, if they come to us and they ask us like, "Yeah, we need AI," then the first question they would ask us is a question they would get back is, okay, why do you need AI? And then that's most of the times not even the question that they can answer. And then there's like, oh, that's a good question. Why do we need even AI? What is the purpose? What is the results? What is the outcome that we try to achieve with the things that we want? So we want to have a digital transformation process, or we want to have AI, but what is the purpose, or are we just following a trend? So it's exactly those kind of questions that we always ask questions back, to get them through the essence and guide them towards the essence, to make them understand, why do you ask the question? Do you even need it? And this is also the difference in our vision and philosophy in our company. We position ourselves as the remote tech department of your business, really helping you with those technological questions and the technological understanding before you start on just the new hype, which could be blockchain, which could be AI, which could be data. But what are the things that really make your business move forward the most is what we really try to dig together with the executives. And those conversations are funny, and yeah, they go all places, but that's exactly what happens over there at the boardrooms. Yeah.
Right. Let's be honest. I mean, most businesses aren't even Disney or Philips with unlimited resources. So when a small business owner comes to you and says, I've got 50K to spend on automation, what should I do? Are you telling them to wait, or is there actually a smart way to start small? Because most consulting advice feels completely disconnected from reality or smaller companies, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, for companies and bigger companies, it's easier to make big mistakes and invest millions, sometimes even billions in technology without like having really feel the impact of the loss they made, right? But those same questions we ask to the executives is exactly, and that's why we have startups and scale ups and enterprises. We ask them the same questions because what we want to do is we really want to have people, executives, and companies focus on what has the biggest impact for the company. So what is the best return on investment in impact, in time, in resources, in efficiency that is going to move their business forward the most. And that's the same question, and that's the same things that we say to startups or people that have a good idea and have just a small budget like 50K is, okay, you got to be even more creative. You got to think even more about what do you actually solve? What do you actually build? What is the core solution? And really get rid of all the redundant nice to haves that you want to build. It's all for later. But what is the core solution that you think you're going to put out in the market or inside of your organization that is going to have XYZ as an outcome? And that's really what we focus on, focusing on understanding what you really want to achieve instead of just what you want to build.
I mean, I too am tired of the productivity improvement conversation that sounds like magic. I mean, implement smart systems and watch your efficiency soar. That's all what we're hearing. But you're actually deploying at this scale. So when someone asks you how quickly can they expect returns, what is your honest answer? And can you give us a real example of your client work?
I think that's another good question. It all depends on the business application, right? Nowadays, everyone is looking at AI and they are deploying AI everywhere in their business. I think the expected returns is like within a year you would at least get like a 200, 300, 400% return on your investment with the biggest impact, lowest effort changes in digital transformation. That should be a minimum threshold, especially at the beginning of your digital transformation process. Otherwise, you don't do it. If it's only going to have an impact of maybe 5%, especially I'm talking about startups and scale ups now, it's not going to move your business forward that much. With enterprises, it's a little different because 1% net profit margin on an annual basis can make a huge impact on the business. So it all has to do with, like, again, where do you stand as a business? How are your numbers right now? What are the biggest bottlenecks and why? But if you take, for example, the administrative work or in general for companies, it's between 30 to 40% per employee. So if you can already make a big impact by seeing, like, okay, what are those biggest administrative or repetitive tasks that they do? And if you have a lot of employees, you're talking about a lot of money in costs, but also opportunity costs, because you have your employees and you have your knowledge base working on repetitive things that can be automated. And these are the things that you really have to spend the time on as organizations, big or small, and analyze and observe and write it down. And then based on that, really make a well and thorough plan, not based on hype, but really based on, okay, this is going to move the business forward.
I would agree to that. It's more like hidden trial also. So, once companies get past the basics after these foundational questions, they face a bigger challenge, figuring out where technology actually creates unexpected value, I believe. So, most people focus on obvious applications like customer service chatbots and data analysis, but you have worked across industries from luxury watches to government systems. What is the most surprising place you have seen automation create value that made you think, why didn't anyone think of this before?
Yeah, I mean that's another funny one, right? I mean, like the devil is in the details. Sometimes, like, very small things can have a huge impact, right? So one of the things that we usually use is a so-called impact effort analysis. So what's the expected impact and what's the expected effort that we have to put in? So we had one case study of a client that is in the transportation, and they have a huge company. They have over, I think it was over 2,000 trucks driving every day. And just by putting a little small thing inside of the systems of the truck drivers when they were next to the border, to go and get the gasoline or the diesel, I must say, in the other country instead of they're currently in. So this was like maybe 10, 20 kilometers they had to drive to the other side. It was just a little ping that we put into their system, but that saved them millions and millions a year just by getting them notified with just a little thing. It was just a little effort. It was not very hard to do. It was not very hard to build and develop, but it had a huge impact bottom line just by just so small things. And this is also, again, sometimes you identify those small little things that are like very low effort but have a huge impact on your organization.
I would agree. So, you have got a front row seat to transformation across multiple sectors. I am actually curious about your prediction. Like, which industries do you think are actually vulnerable to disruption right now versus which ones are just talking a good game about innovation?
Yeah, that's another one that makes me think a lot of one about there's a question that really keeps me up sometimes, and I think one of the ones is the one I'm in myself, right, which is the IT service industry. There's so much changes going on right now, especially with the upcoming of AI, right? Upcoming of AI, but also specifically the agentic workforce that is now becoming more and more emerging. And I think that's one of the sectors that is going to have a big impact. You're going to have a big change of developers that just as how with the industrial revolution, people went from working with their hands going to becoming the operators of the machines, right? So they would have a completely different kind of skill, and they go from doing everything at hand, not being able to have very high output, going to operating systems. And I think one of the biggest trends that we're going to see is not that the developers and the coders are going to be replaced completely, but they're going to have a different role. They're going to become like the human resource, the operators of those agents. So you're going to have agentic workforces that they are going to operate that require that specific domain or technology knowledge. So that's number one. Number two, what I think is what is going to be a big trend is everyone talks about AI and the application of AI and the agents, but that is going to all rely on the quality of a company's data. And we've been in business intelligence, so data and data quality and data management, connecting all the different sources for a long time. And I know still, and it still is the case, people don't have and companies don't have their data in order. And if you want to have good results with AI, you're going to rely on high quality and high quantities of data from your company. So I think before people can actually like get the most and utilize the most out of AI and agents, they first have to do the cleanup with AI with their data. So that's going to be something that probably the coming years companies really are going to heavily invest in again.
Those opportunities definitely sound compelling, but let's be realistic. Every major technological shift comes with serious risks that most leaders are not prepared for. So, building Henry to a 4 billion euro valuation while managing global tech projects puts you in a unique position. Are the leadership skills that got most CEOs to where they are today actually relevant for managing rapid technological changes? Because the speed and uncertainty feels completely different from traditional business challenges.
Well, absolutely. I think that's another one. By the way, you're asking very, very good questions. So that's good. I think it's going to be very useful for the people who are going to look at this. No, I think they're missing out. They're truly missing out. And the CEOs of today, they absolutely don't have the skills, in my opinion, to really stay in pace, right? Because as you said, the world keeps on evolving faster and with a faster pace. I mean, it gets faster by day. But companies, especially the bigger ones, are by default they're very bureaucratic and slow, right? And so if you have very slow companies on one side, but the technology that is going to be evolving more rapidly, It reminds me of what Charles Darwin said. It's not survival of the fittest; it's survival of the most adaptable. And I think agility and adaptability are the number one skill you would need in this world, because everything changes so fast. It's unbelievable. If you're talking about marketing, if you talk about sales, if you're talking about technology, I mean, the changes that are going on, what's today the next big thing, and has the most impact, can be redundant tomorrow. We've all seen that with the impact of ChatGPT from one day or another. I mean, it was built for a long time, but from one day or another, I mean, it had such a big impact. And from there, the agents would come, and there's many other very big impacts that are, and the world, the globalized world is also changing rapidly. So I think those skills, unless you get like a little yet less or older CEOs and executives, or a better mix within those boardrooms from older, like more structured, more wise people, together with the younger generation that is fast and adaptable. I think unless you're going to see a mix of that, it's going to be very hard, especially to compete with rapidly growing startups and scale ups.
I would definitely agree to that. I mean, I have seen so many tech implementations fail because nobody bothered to bring the humans along. When you're walking into an organization where people are terrified of those new systems replacing them, how do you handle that conversation? Like, do you tell them the truth, or do you have to manage their fears differently? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, that's another very big topic, right? I mean, you can have a very good technology built, but the implementation and the adoption from the buy-in from your team, your employees, but also your customers is another very big challenge that most of the times fails. I think it's quite high in the percentile that it fails. We usually focus not on replacing humans, but amplifying human output. And I think that's one of the things I believe in the most, is not replacing, because I think humans still have a certain ability that makes them, yeah, a little bit better if they, apply it in the right way, right? We have a certain kind of creativity. I mean, we're quite a nice creature, so to say. And I think if companies, and especially that's also the way we also advise to have enterprises and companies work on that digital transformation, is have the story, have the narrative, like, hey, it's not going to replace you. It's going to make your life, going to make your work better, and it's going to amplify your skills. Make sure you can be in your strengths and not in your weakness. It's going to replace not your things you want to do and you're good at, but the repetitive task you don't like to do anyway, like your administrative work or other repetitive work. So it all has to do with the story, and it all has to do with the transformation strategy and how you position that. So that's what I would advise to do.
I'd agree. So here's what keeps me up at night about rapid tech adoption. Everyone's rushing to implement it, but I rarely hear people talking about what happens when it goes wrong. You're building systems for governments and major corporations. So, what is the scenario you are most worried about that other leaders are not even taking seriously enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think what mostly happens is that they have a too idealistic view of, we get AI in, and then all of a sudden the world is going to change. I mean, we have to be realistic. That's not going to happen. And I think also with those digital transformation and the advent of AI, you're going to have more serious risks also on the cybersecurity side, and also on the risk side, that your employees are just going to use ChatGPT, for example, and just going to put in files. Oh, that's easy to get me write an email or a document, and they're just going to upload all those documents without any security, without any approval or checks. And so I think it's now even more important than ever for those organizations to actually invest more time, more resources on their digital transformation strategy. Because what you see now, especially with the adoption of AI, is that most employees, they do it not from the company is telling them to do that, but they just do it by themselves, right? Because it makes their life easier. But that means it's outside of the company ecosystem, which means it's going to have serious risks for them to have all their documents and all their sensitive information out there in the systems that might leak, that might give cybersecurity issues or whatever. So it's even more and more important to be focused on your digital transformation nowadays.
I agree. I mean, I really appreciate how you are already keeping the worst case scenarios ahead of you because those are the kind of risks that we all need to manage. But let's get practical about what companies should actually be doing right now. I see startups thinking they can compete with Google by building better technology, and I see enterprises thinking that they can just buy their way to transformation. Both approaches kind of seem flawed to me. Like, what is your take on how smaller companies should actually think about innovation differently from those bigger players?
Well, yeah, that's another thing. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, right? And I think David versus Goliath is a very good example. You have one that's very strong, and the other one is like more creative. Like, how can you win? By being smart and being using speed. And I think the startups and the startup founders, they have one big advantage, and that's the speed and the way they can be very adaptable and flexible because they don't have any board and they don't have any approval systems. So if you look at speed as their biggest advantage, you then have to ask yourself, like, how can you maximize the advantage you have with speed, right? Compared to like the bigger ones, because the bigger ones, once they see that you're going to be successful in a certain kind of thing, like if you look at, for example, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they, as a startup, they grew so fast. But if you look at Gemini from Google, they almost already have the same amount of users, which is quite insane. So they had they didn't have that 2 years advantage or maybe even more, but just because they have that distribution network, they have a so-called mechanism called distribution-led growth, right? So as a company, as a startup, you have to be very creative and you have to take the speed to your advantage. To ask yourself, like, okay, how can I be faster? Because there, once the giants wake up, you're gonna lose. If you're gonna fight them, head to head, you're gonna lose, right? So you want to avoid that at all costs. So that either like you have trends that people build in stealth mode, for example, but what I would do is like, how can you like leverage on one side the speed of, for example, building something like that, and then leverage one thing that's very vital that the bigger companies have is the distribution network. If you look at Google, the biggest advantage is that distribution network. They launched Gemini, they launched it to all their Google users. Boom, you have so many users already. So if you have something that's very, very good in terms of like technology, then the first thing that I would do is like to find, be very cautious, of course, but find that distribution partner that has, for example, 100 million relevant potential users, then partner up with that, because there is going to be, if it's very good technology and it's going to be used by a lot of people, it's only a matter of time. Yeah, so the time is ticking that the bigger ones are going to be like, okay, that's nice. They're going to rebuild what you've been building, and they have it in a few months, and they're distributing it to all their network with their distribution network, and you're done, or at least you're going to be losing a very big network. So I believe in very big, partnering up with the right people and leveraging on one side. You leverage your speed as in a startup, and then find out like one specific like enterprise or whatever partner that you can utilize that you have the supply and demand matched up, and then leverage that, so to say.
Yes, it's like Shark Tank altogether. This is the million
You could
dollar
say.
question. I mean, when does it make sense to develop your own capabilities versus working with specialists like Crebos? Because I see companies making expensive mistakes in both directions. So how do you help your clients figure out what they should own versus what they should actually outsource?
Yeah, so this is another very big topic that in the digital transformation consultancy that we do, is we really help them, like, not to just like they come to us and we say like, okay, sure, we'll build it for you, but again, ask them like, do you actually need to build this, and what are the pros and cons of building it versus just buying it, right? And buying, we're talking about using a license. So if you talk about a CRM system, for example, right, you can make a custom built CRM system Yeah, you can build it. It's gonna be very expensive, and it's gonna have XYZ as an impact. And on the other side, you can also have a license. Right? You can take a license from, let's say, any type of CRM system. You have to again compare these two with both the pros and the cons. On one side, if you build it yourself, you're going to have more IP value for your company. You're going to be more tech enabled, so it's going to increase the valuation of your organization itself. Also, you're going to have more options to customize and make it more match your process. So let's say you have a completely unique process, you would say. On the other side, it takes long, so it also has a disadvantage, like it's going to take a long time to build it. On the other side, you can buy something, you buy a license, and you can immediately start. You can onboard it. It doesn't have the customization. You do have a vendor lock-in, and you don't have the IP value. So you have quite of a dependency. So it all comes down to comparing, weighing off the pros and the cons and the benefits. And you can even sometimes suggest a mix. You can start quickly by just using a license, and then later on, once the way off, so the balance changes, they're gonna have more pros to build it than than to buy it. Then you can make a decision. So it all has to do with the complete strategy overall, your digital transformation strategy that should contain everything about AI, cybersecurity, your data, buy versus build, and really have that overall strategy that's very, very important for businesses, very, very critical, especially now these days.
Yes, that is true. So you have built significant operations in India and rebuilt your company there from the ground up. So, and you have seen the market evolve in ways most Western entrepreneurs never do. Where do you see the next billion-dollar opportunity emerging in India that others might be missing? And what is the intersection of technology and local market dynamics that has you most excited?
Yeah, I mean that's another point. I'm First of all, I'm a very big fan of India. I love the Indian culture. I love the Indian people. I mean, it's absolutely amazing people. I love to come there. They have the best kitchen in the world. That's for sure. I mean, wow, and you can't find it anywhere in the world. I mean, the spices and everything. But we're talking about technology, not about food. But I was just immediately thinking about the food because I'm quite hungry. No, I think just like Jeff Bezos said, Jeff Bezos also, I mean, he even has like more deeper insights about what's happening globally. And he says it's going to be the years of India. And I believe the same thing. I believe that India has also very, very good cards if they are able to, also get into the speed that is going to require to utilize the advantages that they have right now with all the political things that are going. Because you have on a geopolitical level, you have very big shifts from China with the tariffs between US and China. And you see a lot of like the logistics, not only on the software side, but also on hardware side and hardware software combinations flowing into India. I think that is going to bring a lot of opportunities for India. But I think one thing that, for example, China has way better structured compared to India, and I think they really should have a very big focus on that, is the infrastructure, the logistics, the logistical infrastructure. And I think if they're gonna improve that and they're gonna heavily invest in that, they're able to retain and they're able to utilize the advantages and the opportunities they have right now from all the political shifts and issues going on. So
Alrighty, we have covered a lot of ground here, and I'm going to shoot out some rapid fire questions to you to get your
bring it on.
unfiltered thoughts. So, are you ready?
I'm ready,
I
born
want your
ready.
honest takes and no diplomatic answers. Let me tell you that.
Well, that's no problem. I'm Dutch, so we're known for being very direct.
Alrighty, so will coding become obsolete or is that just a hype designed to sell more no code tools?
That's a good question. I don't think coding will become obsolete. I think it's exactly focused on selling more AI hype and more no-code tools. Only I think it's going to have a different, as I said, you have operators. So you have more sophisticated knowledge and different knowledge you're going to have as a developer to stay in a job. Yeah.
Right. Henry's using algorithms for financial advice. Will people ever really trust machines with their money, or will they always want a human involved?
Absolutely, they will. Not our generation, not the older generations, but the new generations, they trust everything. They have a completely different way how their mind is wired, and they're 100% gonna rely, and they don't care. They're gonna 100% believe in their AI for sure.
What is the most overrated tech application that everyone talks about but doesn't actually deliver value?
I think one of the most, and we're talking about business, yeah? I think the biggest issue is using chats within, like, for example, a Slack or something, or like a WhatsApp, because it brings a lot of noise inside of organizations and projects, and unnecessary, irrelevant information, uncentralized information, and it brings a lot of headache, and it brings a lot of problems within organizations. So I think, removing your chat and having just very clear and concise single source of truth systems and threats would be helpful.
I'd agree. If businesses ignore technological risks completely, what is the worst realistic outcome we are looking at?
Well, I think that if we're talking about, realistic, might be that we're going to be coming inside of some sort of matrix, like the AI and the robots will take over. I mean, that could be like the worst thing that could happen. I mean, we've seen like many movies about it. But I think on a business, on an individual business level, I would say like that all their sensitive information is being uploaded by some employees and in an AI, and that's been leaked, and someone hacks that, and they have complete, everything is on the table.
Right. And you have built significant operations in India. You've seen the market evolve firsthand. Where do you see the next billion-dollar opportunity emerging in India that others might be missing?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the infrastructure. I would say for also for Dutch companies is going to be building the infrastructure that's going to make India like one of the most important players on the world stage.
And that is true. I have the last final rapid question for you. Complete this sentence. The future belongs to leaders who?
The future belongs to leaders who are the most adaptable.
I would definitely agree and put a pin on
That's
that one.
great minds think alike, huh?
Yes, it does. It does. What an incredible conversation with Maurice Adam Weber from Crebos International. We have covered everything from the realities of tech implementation to the human side of digital transformation. The key insight from Maurice: success is not about having the most sophisticated technology. It is about asking the right questions before you start building and keeping humans at the center of that transformation. If you are a business leader working on digital strategy, I would love to hear about your experiences. Because are you seeing the same implementation challenges that Maurice described? If you found value in this conversation, please like and share this episode with other entrepreneurs and business leaders who could benefit from these insights. And if you have not already, make sure to subscribe for more conversations with the founders who have built global companies from the ground up, as we bring you the real stories, practical strategies, and hard-won lessons you will not hear from anywhere else.